August 15th, 1998, Columbus, Ohio. David Morrison loaded a cooler into the trunk of his yellow Honda Accord, the sun glinting off its fresh wax. His wife, Sarah, checked her purse for the campground reservation, her laugh carrying across the driveway. Their daughters, Sarah, 16, and Jenny, 10, bickered over the backseat window seat, Jenny's stuffed elephant tucked under her arm. David honked twice, a family tradition. As they pulled away, waving to 14-year-old Jake, feverish on the couch, watching through the kitchen window. "Feel better, loser," Sarah yelled, grinning. They were headed to Mammoth Cave, Kentucky, for a week of camping. A perfect family trip. Viewer, what turned a routine road trip into a 20-year mystery? 20 years later, a drone hummed over a Kentucky forest, its camera catching a shadow in the trees. A sinkhole 60 feet wide, packed with rusted cars, dozens, maybe hundreds, stacked like a twisted metal graveyard. At the bottom, a yellow Honda, its roof rack bent, waited to tell the Morrison family story. What secret was buried in that automotive tomb? The Kentucky forest was silent, save for the drone's whine. Dale Rivers, 42, a land surveyor with a sunburned neck and a love for precision, guided his quadcopter over dense oaks for a timber company's appraisal. It was September 2018, and the job was routine: map the land, mark the trees, move on. But at 3:17 p.m., his monitor flickered. A dark gash cut through the green canopy, unnatural and jagged. Dale zoomed in. "What the hell?" he muttered. A sinkhole, massive, its depths glinting with metal. Cars, dozens of them, stacked like discarded toys, rusted and tangled in vines. He called his boss, then 911. Within hours, Kentucky State Police swarmed the site, 60 miles east of Mammoth Cave. Viewer, why would someone hide a graveyard of cars in the middle of nowhere? Detective Amanda Cross, 45, pulled up in her unmarked sedan, her thermos of coffee still warm. A Louisville cold case specialist, she'd seen her share of oddities. Drowned trailers, buried barrels, but nothing like this. Floodlights buzzed to life, illuminating the pit. The cars were old, 1990s to early 2000s, sedans, trucks, minivans, some so decayed they crumbled at a touch. A forensics tech shouted, "Got a yellow Honda down here." Cross peered over the edge. Halfway down, wedged between a pickup and a van, was a 1996 Honda Accord, its paint faded but distinct. She radioed dispatch to cross-check missing persons cases from 1998. Viewer, whose car had been waiting in that hole for 20 years. By midnight, the answer came. The Morrison family, David, Sarah, and their daughters, Sarah and Jenny, vanished August 15, 1998, en route to Mammoth Cave. Their yellow Honda matched the description, down to the roof rack. Cross called Jake Morrison, 34, listed as next of kin. Jake was mudding drywall in a client's kitchen, his hands caked in joint compound, when his phone rang. "Jake Morrison," he said, stepping onto the porch. Officer Beth Coleman's voice was steady but kind. "We may have found your family's vehicle." Jake's knees buckled. He sat hard on the steps, the world tilting. "Where?" he croaked. Coleman explained the sinkhole, the drone, the dozens of cars. "We need you to come down," she said. Jake hung up, staring at his work truck's faded Morrison construction sign. He'd been 14, sick with the flu, when his family drove off. Now, 20 years later, they were calling him back. Viewer, what does it feel like to get that call after 2 decades of silence? Jake drove to Bowling Green that night, arriving at 2 a.m. The motel smelled of stale smoke, but he didn't sleep. He scrolled through old photos on his phone, his parents' wedding, Sarah's homecoming, Jenny's gap-toothed grin. The last one, taken that August morning, showed his dad loading the cooler, his mom fussing with her purse, his sisters arguing. Jake, visible through the kitchen window, lay on the couch, thermometer in his mouth. He'd been mad about missing the trip. Now, he wondered if that fever had saved his life. At 9 a.m., Cross met him at the Kentucky State Police Post. Her gray blazer and steady eyes put him at ease, despite the knot in his chest. "This isn't just a car accident," she said, buckling into her sedan. "The sinkhole's full of vehicles, deliberately arranged. Someone's been using it as a dumping ground for years." Jake's throat tightened. Arranged by who? Cross started the engine. That's what we're going to find out. Viewer, what kind of person builds a secret car graveyard? The forest road to the site was barely a path, the sedan jolting over roots. Crime scene tape fluttered between trees, and police radios crackled. Dale Rivers, in coveralls, shook Jake's hand. Never seen anything like it, he said, gesturing to the sinkhole. Jake crested a ridge and froze. The pit was enormous, 60 feet wide, 40 feet deep, a scar in the earth. Floodlights revealed cars stacked with eerie precision, small ones tucked into gaps, larger ones forming walls. It wasn't random. It was a puzzle, solved by someone with time and heavy equipment. Cross pointed to the yellow Honda. That's it, halfway down. Jake's eyes locked on it. The dented passenger door, the roof rack's curve. It was theirs. That's their car, he whispered. Viewer, how do you stand at the edge of a mass grave and recognize your family's life in a single dent? A forensics tech, Lisa Tran, approached. We ran partial plates. That blue pickup with the camper shell, stolen from a campground in 1999. The Hendersons' parents, 2 kids, vanished. No trace. Cross's face darkened. 8 vehicles so far match missing persons cases. All families. Late 90s to mid-2000s. Jake's stomach churned. This wasn't just his family. It was dozens. Cross descended into the pit with Tex, her headlamp bobbing among the rusted hulks. Jake stayed above, watching her reach the Honda. She spent 20 minutes examining it, then called up, Jake, you need to see this. He rappelled down, his boots crunching on metal. The air reeked of rust and decay. Cross pointed to the rear window. Scratched into glass, crude and desperate, were 2 words, help us. Jake staggered back. His family hadn't died instantly. They'd lived long enough to beg. Viewer, what does it mean when a family's last act is a plea carved in glass? Jake stood beside the Honda, his flashlight trembling on the scratched words, help us. Detective Cross bagged a purple hair tie from the passenger seat. Jenny's, Jake confirmed. And a stuffed elephant from the back, its gray fur matted. She'd never leave this behind, he said, voice raw. Cross nodded, her notepad filling with details. The car's interior held more. A juice box, a romance novel, a warped dashboard. No blood, no signs of a crash. This wasn't an accident, Cross said. They were taken. Jake's mind raced to that August morning. His dad's honk, his mom's kiss, Sarah's taunt. They'd been heading to Green River Campground, a route they knew by heart. They always stopped at Turner's Travel Stop, Jake said. Highway 31E for Pie. Cross wrote it down. We'll check if they made it there. Viewer, where does a family vanish on a road they've driven a dozen times? Back at the Bowling Green station, Cross spread out files. The sinkhole held 60-plus vehicles, spanning 1995 to 2005. Insurance records showed every car had comprehensive coverage with high payouts. Someone's making money, Cross said. Jake's phone rang, his Aunt Carol, shaken by news reports. I found a receipt, she said. Your dad bought the Honda from Brennan's Auto Sales, July 15th, 1998. But he told me June. Why lie about a car? Jake relayed this to Cross, who frowned. Rick Brennan's dealership sold cars to 12 missing families, 1995 to 2005. All vanished within 6 months of purchase. Jake's pulse quickened. He knew their travel plans. Cross pulled Brennan's file. Clean record, but too clean. No complaints, no audits. He's connected. Viewer, how does a small-town car dealer link to a decade of disappearances? Cross called Turner's Travel Stop. Bill Turner, the owner since 1985, remembered the Morrisons. Every summer like clockwork, he said. But August 1998, they never showed. Jake's heart sank. They'd been intercepted before reaching a halfway point. Somewhere on Highway 31's lonely stretch. Cross marked a map, mile marker 127, a forested curve with no witnesses. Perfect for a setup, she said. She dug into the original 1998 investigation. Sheriff Dale Hutchkins led it, closing the case as Likely accident, no evidence. His department had 47 unsolved missing persons cases, 1995 to 2010, all traveling families. Hutchkins was dirty, Cross said, and Margaret Pierce, Hartwell Insurance's claims adjuster, approved $3 million in payouts for these cars. Jake gripped the table. They're splitting the money. Viewer, who else was in on a scheme that turned road trips into cash? Jake insisted on confronting Brennan. Cross cautioned against it, but agreed to a wired visit. Act grieving, not accusing, she said. At Brennan's auto sales, the lot sparkled under string lights, unchanged from 1998. Rick Brennan, graying but slick, recognized Jake. "Growing up, haven't you?" he said, his smile tight. Jake mentioned the Honda, the sinkhole. Brennan's eyes flickered. "Terrible thing," he said, sweat beading. "Your dad mentioned Highway 31E, scenic route, right?" Jake's blood chilled. Too specific for a 20-year-old sale. Brennan grew cagey, warning, "Some stones are better left unturned." Cross, listening in the van, whispered, "We got him." Agent stormed the lot, cuffing Brennan as he clutched the phone. Viewer, why does a car dealer remember a family's route after 2 decades? The search of Brennan's office yielded a gold mine. Files detail 43 operations, customer profiles, travel plans, insurance payouts. The Morrison's file listed their route, intercept point, mile marker 127, and $45,000 payout. "They planned every step," Jake said, nauseated. Brennan's interrogation was chilling. 43 families, 212 people, he admitted. Hutchkins' deputies pulled them over for routine stops, then took them to a hunting cabin 20 miles from the sinkhole. "I didn't ask what happened there," Brennan whispered. Pierce handled claims, splitting $8 million. Hutchkins died a heart attack, and Pierce, killed in a 2015 crash, left Brennan as the last thread. He pointed to the cabin cellar for the bodies. Viewer, how do you process a confession that reduces your family to a ledger entry? Jake joined the dawn convoy to Hutchkins' cabin, a collapsed ruin in Daniel Boone National Forest. Dr. Sharon Kim, FBI forensic anthropologist, found a cellar under debris. Ground-penetrating radar showed multiple burial sites. By noon, they uncovered fabric scraps, a zipper pull, then bones, an adult female 5 feet 5 inches with fractured skull, Jake's mother. By dusk, for skeletons emerged, adult male, adult female, 2 juveniles. "Likely your family," Kim said, pending dental records. Jake sat on a log, staring at the box remains. His family, murdered and buried like trash, had finally been found. But the radar showed more graves. "At least a dozen," Kim said. Viewer, how many families lie beneath the killer's forgotten cabin? Jake returned to Columbus, the weight of the excavation heavy. Dental records confirmed the remains: David, Sarah Jr., and Jenny Morrison. At Riverside Cemetery, Jake buried 4 caskets, mostly symbolic after 20 years in the ground. Aunt Carol wept beside him. Neighbors paid respects. Detective Cross, Agent Torres, and Dr. Kim attended. Mike Brennan, Rick's son, lingered behind an oak, guilt etched on his face. After the service, Mike approached. "I found a lockbox in Dad's office," he said. "Photos, recent ones. Families who bought cars last month. The Taylors, they vanished 3 weeks ago." Jake's stomach dropped. The operation hadn't ended with Rick. Viewer, what happens when you realize the nightmare isn't over? Jake called Cross. She and Torres arrived that night, turning Jake's kitchen into a command center. Mike's lockbox held 8 names, including the Yamamotos, missing after a Yellowstone trip. Terry Brennan, Rick's brother, runs a dealership now, Mike said, trembling. Cross mapped the Taylor's route. Highway 52, West Virginia, same intercept pattern. Terry's following Rick's playbook. Torres said, they cross-checked the dealership's database. 3 families, the Wilsons, Rodriguez's, and Pattersons, bought cars recently and planned trips. Jake froze. The Pattersons? I'm working their kitchen. They're headed to Gatlinburg next week. Cross's eyes narrowed. Perfect targets. Viewer, How do you protect a family when they're already in the crosshairs? Cross proposed a trap. The Pattersons, briefed and consenting, would drive as planned, with FBI agents tailing. Jake, in Cross's sedan, monitored radio traffic. Mike fed Terry details about the Pattersons' route, baiting him. At 9:15 a.m., the Pattersons' SUV left Columbus, hitting Highway 33 south. Terry's pickup followed, a mile back, making calls. He's setting the intercept, Jake said, at mile marker 127, same as 1998. Terry veered off script, passing the Pattersons and blocking the road with his truck. He stepped out, shotgun in hand. He knows it's a trap, Jake shouted, bolting from the sedan. Terry, it's over, he yelled. Terry aimed, snarling. Rick said you were too stupid to quit. A sniper's bullet from Torres dropped him before he fired. Viewer, what does justice feel like when it's a bullet in a killer's chest? Terry's death ended the immediate threat, but the investigation widened. His records revealed 2 more families targeted, intercepted by corrupt deputies, one still active. Cross arrested them, uncovering a network of 8 conspirators across law enforcement and insurance. The sinkhole yielded 67 vehicles. The cabin, 47 remains from 14 families. Jake contacted survivors, like Michelle Thompson, whose family's blue Honda was in the pit. You gave us closure, she said. Jake, inspired, founded the Morrison Family Crisis Center, a haven for missing persons' families. Funded by a book deal and donations, it offered counseling and advocacy. Viewer, how do you turn 20 years of pain into a lifeline for others? Jake met Patricia Henderson, whose husband and sons vanished in 1999. They talked for hours, sharing the guilt of moving on. You didn't give up, she said. Jake flew to Oregon to help Linda Martinez, whose husband and son disappeared in 2001. Her case linked to a car rental scheme mimicking Brennan's. Cross-track copycats in 3 states. Same greed-driven model. Mike, rebuilding his life, worked construction with Jake and donated the dealership's land for a memorial park. A monument would list 212 names, including the Morrisons. Viewer, what does it mean to honor the dead by saving the living? In a Kentucky forest, a sinkhole hid 67 cars, each a tomb for families like the Morrisons, murder for insurance payouts. Jake Morrison, 14 when his parents and sisters vanished in 1998, spent 20 years searching. A drone's chance discovery led him to a mass grave, exposing Rick Brennan's $8 million conspiracy with Sheriff Hutchins and Margaret Pierce. 43 families, 212 lives, reduced to profit. Brennan's confession pointed to a cabin cellar, where Jake's family and 46 others were unearthed. But the horror didn't end. Terry Brennan continued the killings until Jake and Detective Cross stopped him, saving the Pattersons. The Morrison Family Crisis Center now stands as Jake's legacy, helping survivors like Patricia Henderson and Linda Martinez find answers. Mike Brennan, haunted by his family's crimes, donated land for a memorial to 212 victims. Copycat schemes still lurk, but Jake's work ensures no family searches alone. In Columbus, he stands on his porch, where his family waved goodbye, their honk echoing in memory. Viewer, what secrets still hide on the roads we travel every day?